this is the president. Hello, this is the president of the United States. Who is this? Is it you again?
Look behind you.
This is my private line. How did you get through?
They're everywhere. All the time. We see them every day. But you have to look behind you.
There is nothing behind me. How did you get this number?
The spaceman told me.
What spaceman?
It doesn't matter. I'm telling you about monsters. Please, you must look behind you.
Young lady, there are no monsters in the Oval Office.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Jimmy.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Jimmy.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Jimmy.
give up, give up, give up, give up, give up.
Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. Back from the weekend, and this is the week we count down to Halloween, even though there's going to be a weekend to kind of drink yourself up into a position where you'll be accepting Halloween. But I think we're going to have our main Halloween show on Friday this week, so stay tuned for that. And a lot of great topics too that we've been touching on. A lot of great guests too. They're going to be coming on this weekend. We've been doing pretty good, I think, with a lot of the news right now is kind of political, and it's good to be able to escape from a lot of this nonsense and just talk about things I think that are a lot of fun, actually. And I've always made the argument that stories about UFOs and aliens are part of the Halloween season. Is they've always been a subject that remains to be a big unknown, and that many of our alien films, the science fiction films we see around Halloween, apart from E.T., the extraterrestrial, they've been horror films. I mean, Alien is one of the best films ever. It's scary, it's claustrophobic, it's really creepy. In fact, if you want to count E.T. as an alien film, that's cool. But the cute little E.T. movie, actually, if you know any history about this E.T. film, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, it's supposed to be a horror movie. I know little cute E.T.s, aren't scary, but after Close Encounters of the Third Kind was made, and it was very successful, Columbia Pictures wanted to make a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and Steven Spielberg, he didn't want to. But after the release of Jaws 2 from Universal Studios, Spielberg wanted to be involved in making a horror film of some kind. So he sat down and wrote a treatment called Watch the Skies, which was, of course, that was the original title for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And what he was writing about was one of my favorite alien, I guess you could say, goblin stories. It's the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter. And I've talked about it maybe once or twice. There was actually a guy who said that the aliens have come back to Kelly, to the Hopkinsville area. But what it is there was it's a story that goes back to a Kentucky family who claimed they witnessed strange lights in the sky, and then they were terrorized by what they call goblins that were peering in their windows. And, of course, Steven Spielberg heard this story from J. Allen Hynek, who, of course, many people know is one of the great ufologists who actually worked on Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So after Watch the Skies was renamed Night Skies, they had to rename it because someone apparently owned the rights to the phrase. Spielberg got together with legend John Sayles. John Sayles just wrote Piranha at the time. And then, of course, he wanted Joe Dante to help direct because they needed to flesh out the screenplay. So what Sayles did is he made a draft of some of the alien characters, the malicious goblin alien characters that are, terrorizing his family. And he came up with these strange ideas for the names of these aliens: Squirt, Scar, Clued, and Hoodoo. And they're supposed to be this alien brood that threaten a rural family and brutally kill livestock with one touch of their long, bony finger, which emits an eerie light. Of course, kind of like what E.T. did, is a little light on the finger. So obviously the scripts didn't make it, but I guess the light finger and the light heart made it. Otherwise, Neil Diamond wouldn't have a hit song. But the script was shelved, of course, but then it was rewritten. It was rewritten to be a story about ghosts and demons plaguing a family. And that film was called Poltergeist, yes. So it's funny how, I think it's interesting how goblins and ghosts and all things paranormal seem to be interchangeable. And some argue that aliens, of course, are interchangeable with demons and goblins and ghosts and things like that. And that's why I think they're a Halloween topic in a way, because they can be terrifying. They're a terrifying idea at Halloween or at any time of the year, really. I mean, think about it. It was this time of the year in October of 1938 where Orson Welles announced to an audience, basically said that the world was under attack by aliens. He did that radio performance called The War of the Worlds. Martians were invading New Jersey, and listeners were just terrified to believe that the Earth was under attack by hostile aliens, namely Martians. And, of course, Orson Welles did The War of the Worlds, and it was part of this weekly series that they were doing on the radio theater. And at night, it was funny because the night they were on the air, they were suffering from bad ratings. And I think it was Edgar Bergen that was on the air that night. He had a radio show, Edgar Bergen did, and I think Rudy Valley was on the show. And apparently Rudy Valley was singing, and nobody wanted to listen to Rudy Valley for some reason, so they switched the channel right in the middle of War of the Worlds. And, of course, the Mercury Theater was doing this as a scary performance. And like I said, it certainly scared people because people ended up in the middle of the broadcast because they were all tuning in to Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy. And of course, something came on that bored the hell out of them. And so they thought, well, let's change the channel and see what's going on with Wells and the Mercury Theater. And so they got it. They got this alien invasion that they weren't expecting, and a number of people were terrified of this. And it certainly is a remarkable story. And, it depends on who you talk to, because I was in a documentary about this, and it was said that, the whole world panicked, or the United States panicked. Literally, not the whole country panicked, but a few people in the country panicked because it was pretty much a small audience compared to the audiences we have now in radio. So, but still an interesting topic. 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back. listening to Ground Zero. I'm Clyde Lewis. You know, I've been to Grover's Mill. That's the area where was the real area where the War of the Worlds happened, or when the aliens landed. Real life country town in New Jersey. If you blink, it's like you miss it. It's like a postage stamp. It's really kind of small. There's a red barn there that says Grover's Mill on it, and they also have a great place to have coffee. Grover's Mill. There's a strip mall just up the street from where allegedly the aliens landed. There's a 7-foot slab there as well. It's pretty tall. It's the War of the Worlds plaque, and it's there by the water. It's really awesome, actually. I don't know if anyone could do a rubbing of it, because there's actually they're not really saucers, but they're the tripods coming over, and people all sitting around their radios listening to Orson Welles talk about the War of the Worlds. And I went there, like I said, I went there to do a story for the cable system. For cable, it was a story about the War of the Worlds. And just kind of retold the story in a way. That there were, like, you know, Orson Welles reported on the Mystery Theater something about numerous explosions that were seen on the planet Mars, and then there was a blue flame that shoots out from Mars, and they don't know what it is. They follow it till it crashes in this field in the middle of the forest, and the police show up, reporters show up, and then, of course, it's not a saucer, it was a cylinder, which I think is interesting. It was a cylinder like a can, and then everybody gathers around. There's no activity. They're waiting for something to happen, and part of the cylinder opens slowly opens, and police moves everyone back. Everybody is like watching in awe. The lid opens up, and these aliens come out. Many of them come out, actually. And everybody is scared. Some are excited. 3 police officers step forward. They use a white flag to signal to the aliens that they're friends, hoping they'll understand. Unfortunately, the aliens, they took no notice, and then they started invading. And the cylinder became a weapon. It became a heat ray. And then all hell broke loose. The aliens fire this massive laser-like weapon, kind of said it was using some sort of a mirror and solar energy. Killed the officers, reduced them to dust. They die screaming. Everybody begins to panic, and the aliens use the weapon to slaughter humans, just blowing up cars, setting fire to houses. The forest ends up catching on fire. 40 people, including one of the main characters. There's a guy, calls himself Carl Phillips. He's killed. So, the military gets called out, and 7,000 men are sent to Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Tanks, jeeps, cannons, trucks, soldiers, they all ride down. They've evacuated the streets of Grover's Mill. Martial law is enacted. From the forest to the field, everything's burning. All the equipment, soldiers surrounded the giant cylinder, got ready to attack. And then 2 quiet minutes, nothing, just quiet. Nothing can be heard. Then the lid on the cylinder opens again, and they expect the heat ray to emerge again, so the soldiers get ready to fire their guns. But much to their shock, instead of a heat ray, there's this tripod that comes up out of the cylinder, this fighting warlike machine. And all the weapons from the military were fired to destroy the machine, but the aliens had put out a shield, like a cloaking device, that destroyed the flying bullets and the missiles and cannon pellets and whatever were trying to hit the machine. Couldn't touch it. The military gave it all they got. The tripod fought back, fired heat rays at the army. The rays struck the soldiers, tanks, cannons, all the equipment. All of them exploding to fire, being reduced to ashes. And after 2 minutes of a heavy battle, the soldiers, terrified and weakened, ran away from the machines. But The machine kept killing soldiers, destroying their equipment. In the end, only 150 soldiers survived the attack out of a total of 7,000. And after that, the aliens leave Grover's Mill, and from Grover's Mill, they continue to invade planet Earth. And that's what happened in the first few minutes of War of the Worlds. 1938, October, Grover's Mill. Wells' infamous performance, a dramatization of what H.G. Wells wrote more than a century ago, all part of a weekly series of dramatic broadcasts created in collaboration with the Mercury Theater. You know, thanks to decades of space research, understanding of extraterrestrial life has it's come a long way since the paranoid times of Orson Welles' radio play. And we've turned what was terrifying fiction into, science has turned what was terrifying fiction into intriguing reality. But to some people, aliens are still, they're not welcome. And I mean, to some, aliens are horrifying. Some say that they believe that they are denizens from hell, that they're demons, they're fallen angels. A modern announcement about alien creatures would likely spur a mixed response today than in the times of War of the Worlds back in 1938. I think it would anyway. And there may be a little bit of fear out there still. I mean, if we realize the intent of the aliens, if we knew what the aliens were here for, I mean, what if the aliens were here to enslave us? We wouldn't feel the same way about aliens as most people do. And if they were here to use us for food, what about breeding and hybridization? We've talked about those possibilities as well. Two of mankind's most primal fears are the unknown and the dark. So it's no surprise that throughout history, the stories we've told ourselves, have we looked up in the sky and pondered and dreaded the terrors that could be lurking in the vast unknown depths of outer space? I mean, what is more terrifying is that lately, though, we have been getting more unknown messages from other areas of space and many UFO appearances. And these appearances and these messages, they may indicate that what is happening up there is a case of unfinished business. Someone or something is trying to get our attention. And we don't know if they're living or dead. We don't know if they're flesh and blood or artificial intelligence or biological intelligence. We don't know if they're Bracewell probes, if they're spying on us, if they're planning on attacking, if they're planning on invading. But of course, Werner von Braun said that was going to happen. There'd be wars and rumors of wars, countries that were out of control. And then the last card that they would pull is the alien threat. They would tell us that there are aliens out there ready to kill us, ready to pounce on us, harassing pilots, harassing farmers, harassing regular people from all walks of life, being tormented, visited, and otherwise taken hostage by aliens. Like I said, we've come a long way since War of the Worlds, but then think about it. If the novelty wears off, where are we? 503-225-0860. It's 503-225-0860. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
I want you to sit down here against the wall. That's it. Now, crouch tight as a kid.
It may go off any second.
No one would have believed
Ladies and
in
gentlemen,
the early years of the 21st century that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences far greater than our own. That as men busied themselves about their various concerns, we were being scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacency, men went to and fro over this globe about their little affairs, serene in their assurance of our empire over this world. But across the gulf of space, intellects vast and calm and unsympathetic regarded this earth with envious eyes, and slowly and surely they drew their plans against us.
X2L calling CQ. To X2L calling CQ. To X2L calling CQ, New York. Is there anyone on the air? Is there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone? To X2L. Is there anyone on the air? Is there anyone on the air?
We are receiving unconfirmed reports right now of random acts of violence and mass murder from all over the city. Details are a bit sketchy right now, and there has been no definitive statement by the police as to what is happening. We will continue to bring you late-breaking coverage of the story as we get it into the station. Stay in their homes and lock their doors until the situation is clear.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. Numbers to call tonight, 503-225-0860. I met a lot of people in the 28 years I've done Ground Zero. And I built on the work of a lot of people that I met, from Stephen Hawking to Avi Loeb. And I've discussed and I hypothesized what aliens would do. And I know it may be simplistic for some people who want to believe that they've traveled thousands of light years to be here, and all they're doing is abducting our cattle and saying hello to farmers. That's not the case. Those are the stories you hear in the media because they're the most sensationalized stories that are out there. Aliens, or whatever's out there, what unknown is out there, would be better served by first sending probes to the planet. Robotic probes. Maybe those UFOs we see, if not natural, if not the weather balloons of the gods, are really robotic probes. And it's relatively simple to have flyby probes intermittently surveilling solar systems for, every 200 million years they send out their probes to find star systems with biogenic planets, and they'll be surveilled more often. Now, these probes, very highly capable of sending information. These probes will be placed permanently in the vicinity of these planets that have achieved some, what they call multi-cellularity, oxygen-rich atmosphere, water, chlorophyll, biosignatures, technosignatures. The reason why I say chlorophyll is because there are not many trees anywhere, so they probably want to know about that. So once we have these probes, once the aliens put their probes and they've detected an artificial electromagnetic leakage from a planet, and we've got plenty of that, It would indicate that there is one multicellular species, and that one multicellular species has become technologically intelligent because they're broadcasting images and words out into space. And so the aliens have this task of decoding what the species is trying to present. I mean, think of what they have to decode. They have to decode Sesame Street. They have to decode maybe horror movies that they see the violence, you name it. I Love Lucy episodes. They're decoding this. And so the way they look at Homo sapiens, they look at our languages, their science, we look at the math, the culture. And so after many decades of work, they now know a little something about us. It's like they've learned to communicate like ants communicate, or they're not completely decoded at what we do or how we are, because they don't know anything about metaphor. They know nothing about, whether or not, what we do on TV is acting. They probably don't know what that is. They just know that these episodes of the Three Stooges or whatever have been leaking out in space-time, and space is, since about 100 some odd years ago, right? So these probes, these local probes, they don't need to send data back now because they've had deeper analysis. So now what they're doing is the probes are now saying, okay, you got the messages, you got the stuff. Here are the instructions on how to proceed to invade. Now let's say that the probe began transmitting data to its home in 1950 after it started detecting early television signals. And if that home base were located, let's say, 150 light years from Earth, then the earliest year in which the probe might receive instructions to make contact with Earth would be at least, 2050, maybe 2030. Some would say more than that. Hell, go right into 2022 or whatever. I don't know. Not 2022, what I'm saying. The 2200s. Who knows? But when we finally discover that these UFOs are these local probes, after it's decoded us, after it's figured us out, after the transmissions in the terrestrial language are figured out, then we can find a way to have dialogue that would take place in near real time, as opposed to the slow dialogue between ourselves and an alien civilization. If we're transmitting from Earth to a star hundreds of thousands of light years distance, now these alien probes, they don't have to reveal the location of its home base. All they have to do is say, there's a civilization out there that wishes to make contact. And a fully autonomous probe would be able to communicate with us of its progenitor race or progenitor civilization, even after, now get a load of this, they could be long since extinct. And so all we're dealing with is probably the probes of an extinct civilization. I mean, provided that the probe doesn't belong to an existing civilization or network of civilizations, there's this problem of how we're going to communicate with them or with it. We don't have a transmitter big enough that I know of to do it. So we would have to string communication nodes or communication satellites that would be able to communicate with these probes. One in orbit, every other location in space. And this is how we communicate. And of course, large ET civilizations could hear us, know we're here, and could come. And they wouldn't have to be that far away either. They could be as close as Jupiter or Saturn. 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. Back to more Ground Zero. Don't go away. Everything, as I say, most of the time. CNN right now is doing a piece. NASA enlists team of scientists and experts to delve into mysteries surrounding UFOs. This is happening right now on CNN. NASA enlists team of scientists and experts to delve into mysteries surrounding UFOs. Why are they talking about this? They break away from the January 6th reports. They break away from Trump as a Nazi to NASA enlist teams of scientists and experts to delve into mysteries surrounding UFOs. They keep showing, though, the same TikTok videos or the Tic Tac videos that NASA they're talking about signals from space. And that's the thing. A signal. That if SETI were to observe or presume a very faint signal, we would have to have a very powerful telescope to even find that. But there are highly sensitive telescopes. They have very small fields of view. We have the James Webb telescope that's out there right now, and they could pick up on signals. So SETI's best strategy would be able to, look for a wide view or an all-sky, all-the-time observance that, of course, are being planned and are in place now. And then we have the military pilots they're talking about on CNN, the military pilots of objects, seeing these objects that defy all known aerodynamics. You see the steep accelerations. They may be delusions, who knows, hoaxes, optical illusions. But nevertheless, scientists can agree that the first alien detection could occur here in our own solar system. And people who believe in UFOs and SETI scientists are agreeing that if some UFO sightings are genuine sightings of aliens, then they must be technosignatures of either robotic probes or either that or they're biological beings. If nothing else, I mean, beings like that would be biological. They would be crushed by the G-forces of these accelerations that they're doing. So we think to ourselves, that's got to be some sort of a artificial intelligence flying these things. And what's more terrifying is, and I think the reason why this is making the mainstream as I speak tonight, is that lately we've been getting unknown messages from other areas of space and many UFO appearances that may indicate that what is happening up there is a case of unfinished business, a case of we need to look harder. The James Webb Telescope scientists are now able to see many worlds. They're able to pick up various signals. However, what is most chilling is that these signals could be the last breath of a dying planet. As in what Obi-Wan Kenobi said in Star Wars, where he said, it would be like the millions of voices crying out in terror and mysteriously silence, or all of a sudden silence. And realistically, any sort of distress message or epitaph or gravestone message left would be the most terrifying thing to hear. And while we could have a planetary disaster that would wipe us out, to find hard evidence of it happening to another world would make the threat that much more real to us. I mean, we know that people die every day, but it all changes when an entire block gets taken out by an explosion or a tornado. A planetary disaster on your own block would be really a terrifying thought. I mean, if any of these alien beings have escaped their fate, or if they've been watching us from an outpost in the Jovian system using Bracewell probes, as I said earlier, that would partly explain why we are seeing strange UFO sightings. We've been hearing about these active skies with regard to UFOs. We're learning from every report that people from all walks of life are having UFO experiences of some kind. The idea of an alien incursion and the idea of UFOs being a threat to national security has now been taken seriously by the government. If something is violating your airspace and performing maneuvers that defy our understanding of physics, maneuvers that no aircraft can perform, then you're going to want to take a closer look. I mean, the military and other groups are more interested in what is out there than what the mainstream media would have you believe. I mean, when you report a UFO sighting, and then, of course, recording them on a camera without making it look like you're taking it from a potato, yeah, that's very complex. That's hard to do. I mean, UFO investigations are simply an intellectual vortex that can easily addict you. You're drawn in, and still you tell yourself, you think, what am I doing here? Is this a lost cause? But you think about the fundamentals here. I mean, it may be a black hole that has no bottom. I mean, it may be something which defies all academic laws of nature. It's like being inside the event horizon, but what's going on here? Why is it that, I mean, it just shocked me when I just saw that on TV just now. In fact, I even took a picture of it on my phone because I didn't know if anybody would believe. NASA enlists team of scientists and experts delve into the mysteries surrounding UFOs. And that was just moments ago on CNN Live. Because like I said, we've got the monitors in here and we're seeing what every TV station is broadcasting on the news channels. And for some reason, UFOs are the story tonight. Once again, though, I don't know what to think of that. I really don't. I mean, unless there's been like an upsweep, an uptick in UFO sightings. I know there have been a few that have been reported by pilots lately that are really intriguing. Have you been seeing things? I mean, it's up to you. If you want to call in and tell me about some of them you've seen, I'd love to hear from you because, I mean, there's got to be a reason why this uptick in UFOs and the thought of UFOs is happening. Is it a Halloween thing, or are people really paying attention to the skies right now? Are they seeing things that don't fit? I mean, is the moon in a weird place? Is the sun in a weird place? Are the skies showing bright lights or configurations that don't look like they belong there? Because it seems to me that there are a few stories that are out there that are being reported, and now, for some reason, there's this new interest. Again, there's always a new interest and a new group of people wanting to investigate UFO phenomena, wondering what the hell is out there. Why are we having this situation? What is going on? So I invite you to call into the program tonight, too. And I invite you to tell us about what you're seeing out there, because I would love to know. I'd love to know why there's this upswing and people wanting to talk about it. I mean, if the mainstream's talking about it, then it's something most definitely is going on here. Something that, only you can see from here, looking up into the sky and wondering what's out there. Because I'm sure a lot of people have had experiences that they want to share. So, inviting you to do that tonight, by the way, if you want to call into the program. It's 503-225-0860. It's 503-225-0860. Seems to be an uptick in UFO interest by the government, and who knows why. I do know there are faint signals being detected now, and that there have been, cosmic light shows going on over the Pacific, over Missouri, a lot of places around the world that are seeing UFOs. Wondering if you're catching a glimpse of one of these things, and just how are you affected by it? Because it's really seeming like it's closing in a little more now than it used to be. 503-225-0860. It's 503-225-0860. I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. You know, with the rise of the cancel culture and an increase in social media censorship, we need to make a big change. So we decided to create a very unique digital platform. It's called Aftermath.media. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring an interactive social media section with a chat room, videos, audio clips, archived Ground Zero podcasts, documents, books, and magazines. Our news aggregator provides current news relating to many of the topics we cover. We're expanding our research and study groups as well, which presently includes Tracy Twyman, William Cooper, Nate Russell, and Jim Keith. Also, check out popular podcast Conspirafact with Wes and Bill. Updated apps will be available soon. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month, and if you sign up now for the yearly subscription, it's only $79. You want to hear the shows you love and support Great Talk Radio. Go to aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Spinning complacently in the darkness, covered and blinded by a blanket of little lives, false security has lulled the madness of this world into a slumber. Wake up. An eye is upon you, staring straight down and keenly through, seeing all that you are and everything that you can never be. Yes, an eye is upon you, an eye ready to blink. So face forward, with arms wide open and mind reeling. Your future has arrived. Are you ready to go?
The loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Jimmy.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Jimmy.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Jimmy.
give up, give up, give up, give up, give up.
Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The number is to call tonight, 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. I just posted on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Ground Zero Radio. Timing is everything, I say. Because the monitor that's just above where I broadcast has a picture. I took a picture of CNN. They're having this roundtable talking about UFOs, of all things. NASA enlists teams of scientists and experts to delve into the mystery surrounding UFOs. And here I am telling you stories about how UFOs can be detected, how they can report them, and everything I was doing in the first hour. And now they're talking about this. It gives me the creeps. That kind of synchronicity gives me the creeps. Really. I don't know why. Either I'm onto something or that's God sending me a message. Sending you a message too. I don't know. I mean, we were tossing around the ideas, not long ago, that we would be getting the affirmation of where we stand in the universe. For several decades, most people who had a keen interest in exposing the truth about life in space continue to face an uphill battle to get the government to disclose what it knows about the UFO phenomena. The massive code of silence that has been kept among politicians and scientists and media about disclosure of the phenomenon and the ridicule of witnesses actually reflect in part the ways in which dominant political economic groups enforce their collective will. To a great extent, they've succeeded in keeping a partial lid on the situation. But there's been a recent military disclosure about UFOs. Now the major networks seem to be talking about it every once in a while. They take some time to, fill in their reports about UFOs between the January 6th reports, whatever else they want to talk about. But science, that's the thing. You look at the new focus in deep space exploration, fully funded and operating with larger budgets for research and development. It could provide information about our solar system, and it's a lot more than what science knows now. I know that. I mean, it could signal new data for physicists to hone their understanding of space, time, gravity, and more. It could revolutionize our understanding of biology, geology, and metallurgy. And there's also a matter of how aliens are trying to enter into our spirituality. With the new UFO reality and alien reality, now comes the arguments and the divisive causes that are being pushed by people that have made UFOs and aliens a part of their spiritual path. There are a few researchers now that have rejected the information being disseminated by intelligence operatives because it was leaked that the Pentagon saw the UFO phenomenon as a threat to national security. So whether or not you believe that the aliens are our saviors, they still pose a significant threat to air traffic and to our nuclear arsenals. USA Today, in their weekend edition, has reported that NASA announced 16 people will be designated to study unidentified flying objects during a groundbreaking 9-month-long process. The team will use unclassified data to lay the groundwork for future study of UFOs by analyzing how the data is gathered by the public, local government, and other sources in an effort to gain a better understanding what events are natural and what events are not natural. So the study comes amid several recent major breakthroughs in the renewed interest in UFOs. Last November, you may remember, the U.S. Pentagon announced its plans to launch a new office aimed to track and assess unidentified flying objects. The Airborne Object Identification Management Synchronization Group was launched to work alongside other federal agencies to detect, identify, and attribute UFOs and assess, as appropriate, mitigate any associated threats to safety of flight and national security. A bipartisan amendment was introduced in Congress by New York Senator and former Democratic presidential candidate Kirsten Gillibrand, which aimed to create more expansive military and intelligence programs to study numerous reported UFO sightings of unidentified flying objects by the U.S. Navy and the Air Force. Now, this amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act established an Anomaly Surveillance and Resolution Office with the approval to pursue any resource, capability, asset, or process of the Department of Intelligence to investigate sightings of UFOs or UAPs within the U.S. Department of Defense. And that was, of course, being discussed by Congress, still is. The amendment has expanded now beyond a previous change made to the House version of the bill, as well as other previous public efforts to study UAPs and UFOs. Gillibrand, who serves on the Armed Services and Intelligence Committee, said that she was urged to introduce the amendment due to, quote, repeated reports over the last 2 or 3 years of these increased sightings by Navy pilots and Air Force pilots, and believes possible explanations on the sightings are so varied that there needs to be a dedicated effort in investigating them. A top U.S. spy chief said pilots nationwide were reporting numerous UFO sightings, and they could be of alien origin. This has been reported as far back as 2021. Avril Haines, who's the director of the National Intelligence, director of National Intelligence, was overseeing all 16 of the nation's spy agencies, and they were speaking publicly at the Our Future in Space event in Washington National Cathedral on November 10th last year. Actually, yes, last year. And they fielded questions about UFOs amid the whole national security debate following years of related conspiracy theories. Haines admitted that strange encounters with unidentified flying objects needs to be highlighted for more investigation to gain a better understanding. Continues here. It says, says, quote, the main issues that Congress and others have been concerned about is safety of flight concerns and counterintelligence issues. Continues on. Always there's also a question of, is there something else that we simply do not understand which might come extraterrestrially? I don't know if that's a word, extraterrestrially. Also, I wanted to find something for you, and I may have to wait till the break is over before I can do it. I was reading, I always find a way that whenever I'm stumped at something to talk about, I always go to the World Economic Forum website because there's something that they're always talking about, something they're always digging into, something they always want to report to us about how they're planning on taking over the world. And I, of course, stumbled onto something where, they have information that we don't have, and that information is about alien intelligence. You know who Yuval Noah Harari is? He's that guy, or Narari. I think that's his name, Narari. Yuval Noah Narari, or Harari. I'm trying to, I'll figure out. My mind here again is slipped, but I'm going to figure it out, get back with you on this, because he's got something he wants to tell you about alien intelligence. And I'm going to try and find that for you coming up. 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. We'll be back. So, if there was ever a guy in the World Economic Forum that tells it like it is, it's Yuval Noah Harari. I know I said Narari, but it was Harari. Yuval Noah Harari, he is an Israeli counselor to Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum. And, he's the guy that came right out and told you that we're going to eliminate the population. He came right out and told you that there are going to be more diseases coming that will kill off the population, and it's going to make the population more sustainable, or it makes the planet more sustainable. This is the guy that won't hold back. He tells you exactly how he feels, right? So as I say, I go to the World Economic Forum's website, and there he is, Yuval Noah Harari, talking about alien intelligence. Listen to what he says.
The new thing is that there is a kind of alien presence on Earth. A new alien intelligence has invaded our life, not from a distant planet, but from the laboratories, artificial intelligence. And this is something new. It's a game changer, because unlike all previous information technology, it can make decisions on its own. It can analyze us. It can hack us. The print and press couldn't do it. The radio couldn't do it. But the new technology can do it.
So the new alien technology can do it. Yuval Noah Harari saying that alien intelligence is here, but it's in the laboratories. Saying that, in fact, hold on a second. Let's listen.
The new thing is that there is a kind of alien presence on Earth. A new alien intelligence has invaded our life, not from a distant planet, but from the laboratories, artificial intelligence. And this is something new. It's a game changer, because unlike all previous information technology, it can make decisions on its own. It can analyze us. It can hack us.
It can hack us, it can analyze us, it can do everything that the aliens said that they were going to do to us in the future, especially when they were talking about hybridization programs. Yuval Noah Harari, the new thing, kind of alien presence here on Earth, new intelligence has invaded our lives, not from space, but from laboratories all over the world. In other words, the laboratories, we were talking earlier about creating alien intelligence in laboratories at NASA. They even created an alien DNA strand. The new thing, a kind of alien presence here on Earth. Yuval Noah Harari, who tells it like it is, the World Economic. Oh my God, that's a chilling message about alien reality, alien tech in the laboratories. Geez, that's just a lot right there to talk about. That's just a jumping point, certainly a jumping point. Eric in Washington, you're on Ground Zero.
Hey, Clyde, great show.
Thank you.
Great show. Great topic. And I just want to say that I think we're at a crossroads, and I think that, part of me thinks that the government does know what's going on with the aliens, and then I also have a picture of War of the Worlds in my brain. And, and I think that, a lot of it is really hype, and it's not real. I think that we're connected to all the aliens, and that we are hybridized, and that every different person on this planet looks differently because there was all those different extraterrestrials that came here.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's interesting if we were to look at the overall, the way we all are and why there's such a variety of people, maybe like you say, different colonies of extraterrestrials came, each with different ideas on how to create human beings. You give lighter skin to those who live up north. You give darker skin that live closer to the sun. Just a number of things that, it's just logic, really. It's like, well, how can we make a model of human that's going to be able to handle the sun when it's hot? Well, we darken the skin. Okay, well, how are we going to do it for the people? We lighten the skin. Or we tighten the eyelids so they can't see as much light. Or we widen the eyes to make them get more light. I mean, it's amazing the way they put all this together and how we've turned it into something that makes us racist or otherwise bigoted, or it's just amazing how this is all coming together the way it is.
Yeah, I think that when you look at the different hybridizations that might have happened, the Nordics, the maybe the Sumerians, the Buddha, all the different entities that we look at, maybe they picked the different region when they came here. They picked that region because that's on the other planets. That was where they went. Like the Nordics went to the colder areas, the Sweden, the Norway areas.
Yeah.
And the planets all mandate. Richard Hoagland says.
Yeah.
That the 19.5 degree upwelling is mandated by the gas welling, and most planets I think are gas giants.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny you bring that up because I always talk about how the aliens themselves could be hiding somewhere in the Jovian system. I talked to Avi Loeb about that, and he says that's certainly a valid idea because it'd be like, well, yeah, okay, it took them 150 light years to get here. It's been, they've been reading our signals for at least 100 of those years. They're already aware of who we are. They're aware of what we do. They're even capable of decoding a lot of our language, and we haven't even learned anything about them except what we've learned from sending probes out into space, and we haven't discovered anything. But they have probes that come here and go away, and those are probably the UFOs you see, and the alien beings we allegedly see are probably, synthetic robots that are here to, like astronauts, that are here to discover the planet and look around at its inhabitants.
That definitely could be that and I think that the genetics, when you look at all of us, also maybe they're using those robotics to look at us, watch us, whatever, like you say.
Yeah.
But I really think that just to strand our DNA and our electrical ability, Clyde, we're electrical entities.
Right.
And I think electrical entities, we connect psychically with the creators, and that they connect with us. And
why do you think we pray, Eric? I mean, we want to connect psychically with the beings where? In heaven, right? That's why we pray. We pray to one God. We have an intermediary. I mean, if you're a Christian, you pray to one God. You have an intermediary named Jesus, and answers to your prayers come through the Holy Spirit. But there's a reason why we pray to a heaven, because we came from there. We came from the sky. We came from space. As has been said, we're made of star stuff.
Yeah, there's a force, a good force that people have, and there, is a bad force out there too.
Yeah.
And we, may the force be with you, and Ron and everyone, and so
and Wes,
that's a thinking too in your headset and your mind, and we come from, you have a good headset, you come from those good folks, in my opinion.
Well, and we're all connected too. That's why what I say touches you, what you say touches others, and we're all having this experience together, and that's how we learn, is if we discuss things like this, rather than being, preoccupied with, political topics of the day. We can expand our horizons and say, well, what is the reason behind all of this scrambling to find out about UFOs and extraterrestrials when they've been on this now more than 70 years? The Bible's talked about this for more than 1,000 years. So, I mean, what is taking us so long? Are we finally admitting that we're not alone? Are we finally admitting that maybe there's an extension of creation out there that we don't know about? That's what I find interesting.
They left the Book of Enoch out of the Bible. They really didn't. When I went to Catholic Church, there was no Book of Enoch connected.
No, but that's another thing too. Is if you want to expand your horizon, you may want to read the Apocrypha. That's It's what I always tell people. I read a lot of the Apocrypha, and that's why I know a lot of things. And it's because I just didn't want to, once I read the Bible, I wanted more. And I got the Apocrypha. And I find that experience just as fulfilling as reading the Bible itself. Eric, thank you so much for your call. It was really good. 503-225-0860. Get to more phone calls coming up. If you're waiting, we'll get right to you. 503-225-0860. Looks like, again, NASA government scrambling to find out more about UFOs. An uptick in UFO sightings. CNN tonight apparently devoted some time to UFOs. Who knows why? A lot of things going on right now. 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. We'll be back.
What I think we have to face here is that we have a genuine mystery, and the human mind rebels against genuine mystery. None of us are very good at mystery. We have something here which defies all of the skeptical explanations. It simply does not fit our categories of the way things are or ought to be.
Wherever you come from, for you. Stop what you're doing.
Stop.
Whatever it is that you want. I'm sure we can come to an understanding.
Then there would be asteroids.
You'll be dealing with terrorists. You'll be dealing with hybrid armies. You'll be dealing with little green men. And you'll be dealing with direct fire and indirect fire. And you're going to be dealing with it all. And it's all going to be dealt with simultaneously.
The last card would be the extraterrestrial threat.
An unprecedented meteor shower falling off the coast of Tokyo. The entire city is mesmerized by this incredible sound. An unidentified enemy has reached our coastline in a swift attack. Right now, one thing is clear. The world is at war.
Most of Santa Monica's been cleared of civilians. We got a defensive line at Lincoln Boulevard, a mile from the ocean. Air Force has got warthogs and B-52s on deck. We're leveling Santa Monica, sir. We got an infestation of God knows what, but they are not of this earth, and we got to hit them with everything we got. We got to hit them hard. They're ground force enemy only. They have no aircrafts, and we will rule the air. You said most civilians, sir. That's affirmed. Getting distress calls, sending squads out.
And that means that a lot of what we think we know is wrong. And if you think you can bring this room along in a few minutes' time, present proof that demonstrates to all these people that everything they know is wrong, think again. That won't happen.
Alien thinking.
Don't be afraid.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. We don't know much about aliens, really. All we know is what we've read in the comic books, what we see in movies. But we can make some assumptions about the only intelligent spacefaring species that we know of, and that's us. We know what we're like. We know how we react to things. We know how we react to other humans, like Russians and Chinese. So how are we going to react if an alien civilization contacts us or shows up in the middle of war? We have spent decades developing protocols that attempt to anticipate this momentous event and all the extraordinary potential consequences it could have on our civilization. And now it's an even more important question. Why? Because the world appears more strongly divided than any other time in recent memory, with major powers taking on increasingly antagonistic stances toward each other. No protocol welcoming aliens is going to be enough if we're continually divided amongst ourselves as to how to handle it. But everybody's hoping that these aliens will find a way to unite us, and that is one problem for people who see this as a ploy, as a deception to create the New World Order. Well, they got a point, I guess. But the search for extraterrestrial intelligence through the lens of realpolitik is kind of gritty and ugly and power playing. And there will be, I can't even say it, practical maneuvers. There'll be maneuvers that nations will pull to enhance their own positions, to ingratiate themselves for aliens when they do arrive. I promise you that. 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. Let's go to Walt in Pennsylvania. Hey, Walt, you're on Ground Zero.
Hello, Mr. Anthropomorphism. How have you been?
Good.
Why, I was telling Ron, Clyde, that, they estimate that there are, in our galaxy alone, there are trillions of these, what they call Goldilocks planets. So, and then they theorized that there are trillions of galaxies out there. So if you even would take into consideration this very conservative Drake equation, as Dr. Carl Sagan said, there's undoubtedly life out there, even highly advanced life. But you're talking about distances that are so immense.
But as I said, the distances, we don't know when countdown began for the aliens to arrive. So, yes, we're looking at vast distances. But once they arrive in the general vicinity of the planet or the solar system, which, in my opinion, and I've discussed this with many scientists, the Jovian system between Saturn and Jupiter, we could easily hide an armada of plenty of flying saucers, plenty of imperial starships, whatever you want to call them. They all can be waiting there, and they could be sending probes from there. And we have moons in the Jovian system that we know can sustain life.
Well, Clyde, but from the standpoint of hard science,
hard science backs up what I say, Walt, because I've talked to hard scientists.
Well, skepticism is the backbone of science.
No, it's not.
You have to view everything.
No, it's not.
With
Skepticism. There's a difference between debunking and skepticism, Walt. And the truth is that scientists have put into scrutiny the idea of extraterrestrial life. They've done it for some time. Now they're to the point where they have to open up the floodgates and give the information because they're finding that there could be either synthetic life forms or artificial life forms or other life forms on other planets.
And Clyde, what you have to also take into consideration, even these hotshot Navy and Air Force pilots, they're in these jets, and they think that they're have absolutely perfect eyesight and they're able to read to the bottom of the eye chart. But you have to remember, Clyde, that the human eye is inherently flawed.
Yeah.
Even these hotshot pilots.
Yeah. Tell that to the guys that loaded the bombs on the Enola Gay.
Clyde, they undoubtedly have.
Well, tell me.
Early onset, they may have early onset glaucoma, macular degeneration, retinitis pigmentosa.
You sound like a moron now, Walt. I'm sorry. I love you, but you sound like a moron now. You really do.
Well, Clyde, I try.
You tried what? To sound
All
like a moron?
Is, Clyde, that
what the hell? You can't do this to me.
Clyde, if you talk to people like Dr. Seth Shostak, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson...
Well, yeah, Shostak...
I'm sure that they would agree with me.
Shostak is more of a believer than you are, Walt. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, I don't know where the hell he is these days, but I'll just tell you this much. I've talked with Seth, and Seth is more of a believer than you are.
Well, Clyde, all I'm saying is that, and psychologically, we have a need to believe in things. Ufology has become like a religion to me. People
it has.
Are substituting
and that's what's wrong with it.
For aliens.
That's what's wrong with it, Walt. I mean, look, can we talk scientific about it instead
fantasy.
All right, Walt.
There's nothing wrong with fantasy,
Walt, can we please take the Santa Claus aspect out of this? You can talk scientifically with me. I'm not... because that's why I say you begin to sound like a moron when you start doing that. Talk scientifically with me here. You've got to tell me. You start out with Goldilocks planets, then immediately you shoot yourself in the foot. I don't get it. Why did you do that?
Well, Clyde, you have, as I say, skepticism is the backbone of science. You can't
But don't be
Well,
so
you
tight-assed
just
over
can't
this. You
believe
can't
everything
do
that
this.
You see and hear.
It's not okay. It's not like you to have a solid argument and then shoot yourself in the foot. I'm really surprised. I really am. Usually, when you and I argue, I get something from it. Now I'm wondering what is wrong, dude. Why you stop short of the alien thing? I don't get it.
Well, I remember the old. I believe it was on the Outer Limits. They had this back in the early '60s. They had this episode where these scientists got together and they created, one of their colleagues volunteered.
Yes.
They drew straws. And
They faked the alien invasion.
They turned them into this hideous alien.
Yeah,
and
I
put
remember.
them in a spaceship that would crash to Earth.
Yep.
The idea was to save mankind.
Yeah, have them all come together. It's been done before. It has been done before. 503-225-0860. We'll be back. Let's go down to Philip in North Carolina. Hey, Philip, you're on Ground Zero.
Hey, Clyde. Great meal tonight, man.
Thank you.
Delicious.
Thank you so much.
Right now, with everything that's going on, with war coming up between Russia and Ukraine, and now we have the 101st Screaming Eagles in Romania doing live fire practice rounds, and a CBS war correspondent already up there. This would be the perfect thing to do, to have them start talking about it, because whenever they start doing these things, that's when they start appearing more and more. Don't you agree?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you remember what I told you about that book by William Bramley, it's called Gods of Eden, and he did a lot of war research. And one of the things he said is before a major war, or before a major plague, or before any major event on planet Earth, one that changes history, we start seeing an increase of UFO sightings. We start seeing an increase of, and he goes all the way back to the times where, the Romans saw, what they call flaming shields. And of course we have the chariots of fire. We have the wheels that Ezekiel saw. So yeah, there are a number of things that when we see these UFOs, it changes. It begins to change history for some reason. Like they're coming in and they're cleaning up the messes that we leave behind. Or they're just observing us because they either know of what's coming, or they're here as a warning or a portent for something else. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's good speculation on the part of a lawyer. If William Bramley is a lawyer, he's not really a science fiction writer, he's more of a war historian than anything else. He wasn't trying to write a book about UFOs, but he wound up writing one.
Well, what was it, back in around March or April? They had that opening where a guy in Asheville, North Carolina, was looking up and he could see something going into it, but there was another star system in it. And it closed up.
Oh, you're talking about the spiral. Yeah, that was an interesting story about, that was Norway, actually. And that was interesting because it opened up and it actually looked like there was a moon or another place that you could go. It was like a window opening up. That's why they thought it was some sort of a time portal or some sort of other portal. Yeah, it's interesting, some of the things that people remember about this stuff, really. So anyway, hold on a second. I want to thank you for calling the show.
You got it, brother. Hey, look, I love you. Prayers for you and the co-workers.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye. Let's go down to Carlos in Texas. Hey, Carlos, you're on Ground Zero.
Oh, man, it's an honor to talk to you, Clyde.
Thank you, man.
So I saw one of the questions you had posed was, had you seen a UFO before? I got two pretty interesting things that I've seen. First one was about 10 years back. I was having a birthday party. I was walking my girlfriend to the car. She's my wife now. As I was walking, my friend started screaming at me like, hey, come run over here real quick. There's something you got to see. So I run over there. They're pointing to the sky, and they're like, you see that? I guess it looked like a star or a satellite at first. And they're like, you see that? I was like, yeah. And they're like, it's been moving in weird direction. So when I finally got my eyesight on it, it was moving in a half crescent direction to the right.
Yeah.
And then so suddenly it started going straight up and kind of moving in a left and right zigzag pattern. So we were just kind of like, the more we looked at it and talked about it, we all got this weird feeling that it kind of felt like it knew that we saw it. So not even like probably 10 seconds as we started saying that, it stopped and shot off to the left like a shooting star.
A lot of people say that. A lot of people say they feel like they're somehow when it sees you, it's like it's been identified and it can tell that you saw it, and then it starts doing things. A lot of people have felt that way before. I've heard that story before.
Yeah, it was just definitely like a weird feeling that like you could tell that it knew that you were seeing it. So the second one that I've seen was probably a few months back. This was really weird. So my son and I, he's 10 years old. We were stepping out the house to go get food, and I always have a habit ever since I saw that. I always look up at it's a clear, starry sky, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I get out the house, I start looking up, and I see, this is really weird. It was like, it was pretty high up, not as high as like an airplane would be with its blinking lights, but pretty high up. But it looked like a green translucent blob that was kind of pulsing and just moving at a pretty fast speed in a just straight direction. And I guess the best I could put, I know from listening to our show, West plays games, like the original Xbox, like when you boot it up, there's like this green blob that pops up on the screen on your TV.
Yes.
And that's the best way I could describe that as. I told my kid, hey, do you see that? Look up. He was like, yeah, I see it. He kept asking me, what is it? I had no clue what to tell him what that was.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of times, we're perplexed because a lot of times they don't perform the way they think, the way we think they will. I mean, it's like, you're not expecting to see a UFO, and you're not expecting, sometimes I think people expect it to be like, you see in the movies, but a lot of the times it's not. It's something very, it's just bizarre. Let's go to Brian in Louisiana. Hey, Brian, you're on Ground Zero.
Hey, what's up? Clyde, how you doing?
Good to see you. What's up?
I'm not from Louisiana. I'm in Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Oh, okay. That looked like an LA instead of an IA. Hello, Iowa.
But my story takes place in Nebraska because that's where I'm from. But we were talking about, I guess, UFO sightings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm trying to talk real quick. I was told to, but it's about 1994.
Yeah.
A very hot summer in Nebraska, very hot. I'm talking like 100 degree. It's very unusual for Nebraska, like 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
And real quick, I won't go into those details, but I had some friends who had some sightings. But anyway, I would get off work in the lake. We lived on a lake at the time, lake house on a lake. I would get on the lake. That lake water would be like bath water at night.
Uh-huh.
So I just want to get out there, chill out right by the shore. And all of a sudden, I can't even really explain it. It didn't zigzag like other people say. It wasn't reflecting anything. It wasn't any multiple colors. It was like it knew what it was doing, and it didn't give any F's. It flew over. It defied. I'm really good with mathematics and geometry. It flew across the sky like nothing was stopping it. Gravity. It wasn't like a plane. We didn't have drones back then. It would resemble a drone, I would think. If anything, it makes me think, okay, the government departments might not know about each other's new superware.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway, to end this, I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just chilling. Well, that was crazy. No one's ever going to believe me. Very next night, get off work. My sister came home. She comes down. She's like, what are you doing? I'm just chilling on the lake. I was like, you're never going to believe this, but last night, this crazy, weird vehicle light thing just zoomed across the sky. Not really fast, but well, I'm just not abiding to the laws of gravity and physics.
Yeah.
I'm just like, hey, what's up? And as I said that, and I'm telling you, I have a witness. She will testify, but it happened again, right then and there.
Oh, when she was with you. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
crazy.
That's something that a lot of the time you can't do. Is you can't repeat a sighting, and when you do, it's advantageous, I'm sure, because you want somebody to believe what you've seen. Many times, again, some of these stories wind up being fish stories if you can't get a good photo or you can't get a sound or can't get burns on your hands, or you don't want that. I don't know. Anyway, 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. Coming up, we have a story that is bizarre with regards to UFOs coming out of the Big Dipper. Very strange sighting being reported, and we're going to talk about it coming up. 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. We'll be back.
Is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Join me on a journey where getting lost is the only true destination. For the past, present, and future all coexist on the same timeline. Where happiness is an illusion. This is the future we are in right now. Where our phones are the first things that we touch when we wake up, the last thing we touch before falling asleep. Radiant, seductive screens we so lovingly, endlessly gaze upon. Much like you're doing right now. Well, welcome to a future where our true reflection is only revealed once the screen goes dark. Welcome to the darkness. I hope you find it enlightening.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "We see me." The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "We see me." The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "We see me." Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. You can call into the show tonight. Dial up 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. Now, I know it's been a while since we talked about UFOs and possible alien encounters. But believe me, the news is there's still a lot of talk going on. Some of it's like rehash of all of the investigative type of groups that are being created by the Pentagon or being created by some other security agency. But, like I said tonight, it was weird to be talking about in the first hour, War of the Worlds, talking about, the Halloween season aliens and the whole thing, protocols and stuff, and then look up and see the CNN is talking about investigations that are going into, again, the UFO phenomenon. Now, I know what's triggered this, and I'm very excited tonight to give you a bit of, I don't know if it's a scoop, because I know the mainstream media has been talking about it a little bit, but I think it's time to investigate what feels like an alien incursion, but might not be. I don't know. We have a lot to look into here. It's still roughly new, still roughly fresh, but imagine, I don't know, imagine flying UFOs, UAP, coming from the Big Dipper. I know this sounds very 60s, right? Aliens from the Big Dipper tonight on. Now, it's just the latest unknown aircraft reports are literally coming from the direction of the Big Dipper, and they're stalking commercial aircraft. Pilots from Southwest Airlines, Hawaiian Airlines, and several others spotted multiple aircraft in the night sky, leaving them scratching their heads, wondering what is happening. Now, this incident's been reported, like I say, briefly. I heard the first reports being made on the national news reports at the top of the hour on Friday. Stories appeared in the New York Post. A guy by the name of Ben Hansen, who is a former FBI agent and host of the Discovery Plus show UFO Witness, got a hold of some footage and air traffic control recordings of mid-air UFO sightings by the pilots. And a former military pilot said that he witnessed several aircraft flying above him while flying a charter jet off Los Angeles coast. Pilot Mark Halsey radioed air traffic control in August asking about what is it that they were witnessing. Now, I have a little bit of a clip of the air traffic controllers and the pilots speaking. Listen to this.
Okay, there it is. There, barely see it. Oh, dang it, went away.
Yeah, we got it. And is your position currently between the flag? We're actually up on the Zulu turret.
So everybody's seeing it.
Yeah, we eastbound on the Zulu turret, just about 80 miles out of Zulu, but yeah, we see it. Yeah, we're at the 330 right over Simmons. A little right behind, so can you give me a clock code where we should be looking? I know what the frequent time clock. We're at the lower right-hand corner that's on the device, the lower right-hand corner that comes up the Big Dipper where it's been hanging out. United 534, we're 30 miles west of it. 320 at 20 degrees north of the horizon, and it's probably there's either the SpaceX satellites or maybe it's the Perseus. There's the Perseus meteor star this week.
It's not a satellite and it's not a meteor.
Yeah, these things are not moving like a meteor. They're looks like they're orbiting every now and then and changing direction. We concur.
Ben Hansen has been actively researching and lecturing on the UFO subject at global conferences for the past 12 years. He has appeared on dozens of TV shows and documentaries related to the UFO extraterrestrial topics, including the Sci-Fi Channel, History, Smithsonian, CW, and currently hosts the UFO series on Discovery Plus. His background includes investigating child sex crimes at state and federal agency levels. Ben took on the interest of UAP subjects, specifically in the area of aviation reports, because he himself is a licensed airplane and seaplane pilot. Ben completed a bachelor's degree in sociology with a certificate in criminology and corrections at the University of Utah, go Utes, and a master's degree in emergency and disaster management at Georgetown University. His thesis paper introduced the concept of global reality compromising events using the hypothetical scenario of extraterrestrial contact to explore the reality of transformations and cascading societal effects that might likely occur if such a psychological intensive event takes place. And we're glad to have Ben Hansen on the program. Hey, Ben, welcome to Ground Zero.
Clyde, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you on. I've been watching you, and I've been listening to you, and I've been following what's going on here. I mean, didn't this just all begin in August, and they're calling these racetrack UAPs?
Yeah, so it started probably the last part of, it was the last part of August. It actually, the sightings and everything really took off and peaked about August and September and continue into October. So I was giving a public lecture, and someone came up to me and said, "Have you ever talked to, people in the military that have had sightings?" And I said, "Yeah, a few." And he said, "I think I got somebody for you." So he gave me a phone number, and I sat around, and it's like most things don't turn out to be much of anything. I called the guy over the weekend, and he starts telling me that he's a former F-18 pilot, and that he flies private jets now, and he was flying from Orlando all the way to Maui, and this was on August 9th into the 10th. And he gets about Los Angeles, over the airspace there, just passing Catalina Island, and he starts seeing these objects, and that's how it started, and it's just snowballed from there.
It seems that Catalina Island has been a focal point for a lot of these UFO sightings, especially when we talk about the Pacific Vanguard that was attacking some of our battleships there in that area. Is there something going on there? I mean, are you investigating Catalina Island as a hotspot for UFOs?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's almost kind of a standing joke because when I appear on different shows, it's almost guaranteed we're going to touch on that because so much is going on. My show, UFO Witness, had an episode at Catalina. I helped the Demi Lovato show that's filmed there.
Oh yeah,
and then of course, yeah.
Well, Ben, let me take a break here. We got to take a quick break. I want to hear more about what you're doing in your work because certainly it's taking the internet and the national news by storm. Ben Hansen with us tonight on Ground Zero, 503-225-0860. Back with more. Don't go away. Beginning in early August of this year, dozens of pilots and their crews witnessed extraordinary displays of unidentified aerial phenomena from the cockpits of more than 30 separate commercial flights. Based on currently available video evidence and eyewitness testimony, 17 or more separate events took place that appear to be related to the same phenomena. Now, these sightings occurred in a span longer than 8 weeks and over airspace as far west as the Pacific Ocean near Japan and as far east as Florida. The phenomenon has been dubbed the racetrack UAPs due to the reported tight circling maneuvers performed by the intensely lit group of lights that pilots seem to be seeing and flying above them. Ben Hansen, who's compiled a lot of the information, who is making the rounds virally on the internet, is a guest tonight on Ground Zero. Glad to have him on the program. So I've seen the footage. And, of course, these UFOs or UAPs are flying on top of these aircraft, yet they're getting images of the flashing bright, they almost like, I don't know if it's an iridium flare or what I'm seeing, but, if these are satellites, which I'm sure many people are going to say they are, what satellites are they that would make that configuration?
Yeah, I mean that's the big question because you have to imagine pilots spend more time looking at the sky than probably any other career, thousands of hours, and they know what satellites look like. They know what Starlink chains look like. They know what meteors look like. So when they say something is really unusual and they start giving you not just the video footage but their descriptions that the video doesn't capture. Nearly all of these were at altitudes far above them, at least 10,000 feet, but maybe in kind of low Earth orbit. And they're flaring up. I've been doing sky watches for years for different conferences. I was teaching people what an iridium flare looks like.
Right.
These things, they flare up for several seconds at a time in intensity brighter than anything that any pilot has ever seen. And they seem to be moving not just linearly, but in a kind of a circular pattern. Mm-hmm. And then they were, stating that they were coming back around, and this would go on for hours. So all characteristics that we've not seen with satellites. So I've always said I'm open to everything, and the evidence will bear that out as we develop theories. But if nothing else, we need to start listening to pilots because it's opened the floodgates. People are just calling and emailing me with other stories now.
We don't have drones that fly that high, do we? I mean, once again, we're looking at craft that are flying above commercial jetliners. I mean, really, how can I put this? They're saying that they look up and they see the Big Dipper, and then they say coming out of the Big Dipper are these lights, these strange lights, and they are, as did you call them racetrack UAPs? Because that's what they're calling them, racetrack UAPs, because they do circling maneuvers around the aircraft, correct?
Yeah, they well, and not necessarily around the aircraft, except in one case, they came directly above the aircraft. The F-18 pilot said they did move from that area, the Big Dipper, and came over in front. So are we dealing with a different phenomena or not? But I coined the term because it seemed kind of the best way to describe what the majority of people are saying. Mm-hmm. Little did I know that Lieutenant Ryan Graves, from the Gimbal and Go Fast videos on the Eastern Seaboard, he had also described on Joe Rogan just this past week, he described it as racetrack. I didn't even know that. So there is something common with what pilots are seeing in this revolving pattern. It's almost like a behavior of some type of animal, that it's like programmed to do this for some reason. So, and another thing I find interesting too is that with all of the talk, and you have these pilots, like you say, that are experienced, they look up in the sky, they see something that's irregular. I'm not going to say that pilots can't be fooled. Of course they can be fooled. But it's just like you say, they've been in the sky long enough to know what they're looking at, whether it's Starlink or something else. They know what they're dealing with. They've been told what to look out for. And then you hear that air traffic controller say something about the Perseid meteor shower and also Starlink. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if it's a meteor shower, these things are moving around not like meteors. They're moving around like aircraft. Yeah, so on that one, that was there was a Hawaiian Airlines flight coming back from Honolulu, and they're coming into LA. When they're not in touch with air traffic control, they often get on a frequency that's kind of like plane to plane, kind of like what CB radio was for those who remember. Mm-hmm. And they talk to each other. So what you're hearing in that clip was 6 different airlines at least talking to each other and trying to figure out what are these things. And some of them were 200 miles apart as they're talking to each other, and they're seeing the objects at the same time. Right. And so the one guy, made a little sarcastic remark, and but the controllers do it too. You listen to the LA Center audio tapes, and they don't. It's a nervous laughter. Yeah. I don't know what to do, what to tell this guy. He says that they're revolving around his jet, and then they actually called the higher ups. You can hear on the tape where she said other people got involved. They needed to know what was going on. Right, and you hear her say the higher ups are concerned, and that's the thing is that I've always been a person who says that even if UFOs are nothing, if they're a big nothing burger, they should be investigated as a threat to national security. Why? Because they could be anything. They could be a missile coming from Russia to blow us into oblivion. They could be a rocket or an engine that's coming down that could, drop what's that fuel that they drop and it could kill a number of people. It used to be in the shuttles. Or a nuclear powered, like Cassini was, a nuclear powered satellite could come out of the sky and kill a bunch of people. But now we're dealing with, flight with intelligence. I mean, beyond the Tic Tacs, now we have the racetrack UAPs. And, this is interesting. Like you say, Catalina Island is a place where I have heard that these UFOs show up as Catalina Island. I've been to Catalina Island myself, and I can see why it would be considered one of those places, something strange going on. It's a very strange area, I felt. And what were you going to say, Ben? Sorry. I was going to say, well, there's some anomalies there geomagnetically, geography-wise, that we're just getting into. And Kevin Day, the radar operator of the Nimitz case, he told me many times they would start to appear around Catalina and then disappear about Guadalupe Island down in Mexico. And it was always kind of this track. And so we started looking at what's unique about it. It's very geologically unique. There are areas of very strong magnetic and weak magnetic zones, including San Clemente, which is pretty much owned by the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And just off the back side of there, if you go off, the shelf drops off really deep. Now, I'm the last person to jump to a conspiracy conclusion here, but if you were to hide something, if you were to have kind of a base of operations, there'd be no better place to put it than in a deep trench like that. And we have numerous cases now of objects coming up out of the water and pilots now reporting them. In fact, a radar controller told us of a recent case. And they're kind of afraid to talk as well.
Wasn't that something either I got from your video that I was watching today or something else where some people have kind of given you the, hey, come here, Ben, I want to tell you something. These things come out of the water. They go back into the water again. We've been witnessing this. What do you make of it? Is that where I'm getting this from? Because I remember somebody saying something either to you or some sort of inside information about these USOs or the possibility of USO activity.
Exactly. And, and you probably get it as well. And it's like, I would never ask anyone to, break the confidence of their, if they have a security oath or it's just a sensitive issue, I'd never ask them to do that.
Right.
But I have had people hesitant to bring it forward to, let's say, radar operators.
Right.
And maybe they're not breaking the law by talking to me because it's public information, but they feel like they can't do it at work.
Well,
so we're starting to connect to these people.
I nicely twist the arm a bit, Ben. That's all you need to do is nicely twist the arm. Ben Hansen with us tonight on Ground Zero. Like I say, making the rounds, a viral video going around, his investigation into the racetrack UAPs of the Pacific. We're going to talk more with Ben and your phone calls coming up. 503-225-0860. Don't go away.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Way out in the waters,
Reportedly, this captured by commercial airline pilots appear to show so-called unidentified aerial phenomena. That's what NASA calls them, buzzing around the U.S. skies and coastlines.
Okay, there it is. And there, barely see it. Oh, dang it, went away.
Pretty clear out there. Yeah, we got it. And is your position currently between the flight? We're actually able to do the turn.
So everybody's seeing it.
Mark Holsey is a former F-18 fighter pilot. This August, he was piloting a private jet off the coast of Los Angeles when he says he saw as many as 7 mysterious objects appearing to fly thousands of feet above him. This is audio from that night alerting air traffic control.
They're going out of circle, so maybe 3 aircraft.
Roger, yeah, I don't know. You're not entering any military airspace or anything. I'm not sure.
The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves.
The new thing is that there is a kind of alien presence on Earth, a new alien intelligence.
This is the voice of Allah, representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you.
No, I do not.
Okay, strange. You have but a short time to learn to live together in peace and goodwill. Small groups all over the planet are learning this. Here now, the voice of Rimon, representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you. Yeah, we've been on the Zulu turret, just studying on the Zulu, but yeah, we see it. Yeah, we're at the 330 right over the communicator clock. Where we should be looking for communicator. 534 is good there. 20 degrees out of
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. Ben Hansen with us tonight. So glad to have him on the program. Talking about the racetrack UAPs, Catalina Island, the Pacific. Pilots noticing these UFOs. So I was just curious, have you submitted any FOIA inquiries as to what's going on? Maybe they know, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, we've submitted quite a few now, and we're just barely starting to get them back. Some of them are for audio recordings, some of them are for radar data. One in particular, and this is something we haven't released yet. I'm probably going to do it this week to my social feeds, but this particular case over Los Angeles, I asked for both the email communications and all. Like any agency that would be involved from LA Center, giving them the info, especially an agency called JTOC, the Joint Air Operations Command.
Mm-hmm.
And that came back as, no, we don't have any of that. However, my research partner had filed that FOIA. She also asked for radar data. So what's interesting is when I asked for the same data, I got a rejection. And they cited that there was military activity in the area that it was impossible for them to redact those military craft and the operations of what they're doing, and therefore they denied the radar data completely. But at the same time, they released some of that data to my research partner, probably not knowing that we were working on the same FOIA. So I'm not suggesting here that it's a cover-up, but at least there's some of the, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And kind of the overclassification. It's easy to say, well, it's just military, so we're not going to let them have it. But there's a sensitivity there that prevents us from being able to have that transparency that we want.
Well, it just
some other strange stories as well.
Well, the Navy, said, well, at first they were going to be opened, then they said they're not going to be opened. Then they say, well, we're going to organize a group in the Pentagon. Then we're going to organize a group in the agencies that are going to be looking at other things. Then there's this thing now that I was reading about, 19 some odd investigators into UFOs. They're getting really serious about this stuff. So I'm beginning to think now that the military is so ensconced in this, and there's got to be a reason why they're interested, and it's not just about whether or not they're alien. I think there's a lot of other stuff going on that they won't tell us about. That in this case, let's let logic lay down here a bit and say, let's rule out the entire alien idea. Let's rule out the entire UFO idea and say, okay, so who's messing with the skies? Who has this type of capability? Does Russia have it? Does China have it? And then once we rule out both, then we can start jumping into this extraordinary idea of extraterrestrials or whatever. But see, they always leave the door open and they dangle the carrot in front of those interested in the whole idea of either synthetic intelligence or biological entities piloting aircraft and buzzing our Navy or buzzing our commercial air pilots.
They do, and if I could quickly share a humorous story, and again, I share this tongue in cheek, but it was very funny because I'm sure that your monologue, you're a fan of the early alien movies, right? One of my favorites was Close Encounters, right? So as I'm going through these what we call ADSB, it's like a transponder, and you can find it on FlightAware, Flight 24, these apps. So we're going through tracking these things. Now, one particular case where a Southwest pilot saw these objects, he's over Missouri. I'm watching this now. A lot of times on these apps, they'll have aircraft that show up with no call sign, and they're usually Air Force for various reasons. They're not going to tell you where they're going or what they're doing, but it will tell you the aircraft type. Now, I'm a pilot, and I know pilots have to gain hours. They have to fly for training. They'll sometimes do missions with nobody on them just to get hours. And in the middle of the night is a good time to do it. But in this particular region, we have 3 cargo or Sentry or Hawkeye airplanes, which are the Sentries are those ones, the big domes on the top for the radar.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been since told that when a UAP encounter happens and it's, in the area for a while, it is protocol to send up these surveillance aircraft and to go closer to the location because they're gathering radar data if they need to send an intercept. Well, one of these takes off from about, I think, Oklahoma City, goes north, and I kid you not, it's just so funny. It goes up through South Dakota, cuts over to Wyoming, and it circles right around Devil's Tower like 4 times.
Oh, man.
here I am thinking the mothership is coming. This is where it happens in the movie.
Are you doing strange things with potatoes and other, and you're building a replica in your backyard, right? Yeah, I mean, a lot of stranger things. A lot of strange things have been reported, and I look at this and I say to myself, the novelty's wearing off here, and the reality is sinking in. And when the reality sinks into pilots, and when the reality sinks into other people, I mean, we've been wanting disclosure for some time, but I don't think we want it like this. I don't even think that if there is disclosure from the government, there are people who are going to believe it. I remember the New York Times when they put out that story about the Tic Tacs, and I was told that wasn't for the believers. That was for the 20-30% that don't believe, being told that something is out there. And so, those people who are hardened skeptics that don't want to believe anything get told by their government or by their military, guess what, guys? We've been tracking these things. We now have the radar to track them, and we're beginning to see them more and more. And I'm just, it's always baffling to wonder why the about face. I know that all these things happened in 2004, 2007, but why the about face in 2017? That's the real question.
It is, and I like you mentioned in the opening, I just recently completed my master's at Georgetown on this subject. Well, it was not that degree, obviously, but the subject was about how is it going to come about? It's a reality shifting event, and can the government stay ahead of it? Because if they can't, we have a big problem on our hands.
We do have a big problem. Ben Hansen with us on Ground Zero. We get to your calls too, and I'm also going to ask him some questions about that synopsis or that thesis he wrote about this, because I think it's interesting to hear what he came up with. 503-225-0860. Don't go away. Ben Hansen coming back right here on Ground Zero. Ben Hansen with us tonight on Ground Zero, talking about the racetrack UAP reports, the commercial air pilots who are seeing UFOs coming out of the Big Dipper, especially near the areas of Catalina Island. And it's all over. We're having pilots seeing these lights, whatever they may be. They're strange. You said you wrote a paper, wrote a thesis on the protocols or the what ifs with regard to an alien incursion or even an appearance. What was your final conclusion?
Well, I think it depends on three things. One of it is how the government can stay ahead of the messaging, right? And you can either do the rip off the Band-Aid approach, maybe disclose everything in a weekend, which I don't recommend, or the slow drip method. The other is how the resilience of people, how can they, if they can do anything to prepare for such an event, by acclimatizing to it or religion, or maybe something's kind of a buffer to the psychological stress that people will experience. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing is just really the nature of the message. Is it going to be that they're hostile, they're benevolent? What information are they going to give us? And I think all those three things act like the stool, the legs of a stool. And if one of those is missing or weak, the whole thing comes crumbling down. And we saw parts of that in COVID, and I think it took people by surprise.
Yeah.
We are so integrated globally. We call it cascade effect. It doesn't require the majority of people to freak out, just a small percentage, and then everything collapses.
Well, it's like I've told people, you don't even need to, people want aliens to exist or anything. They don't even need to present a body or even a UFO. If the government says so, therefore it is. And they can say...
perception.
Yeah, it's just creating perception like they did with COVID. Immediately we lock down everybody, tell people that the aliens don't like it when you're standing 6 feet, when you're standing too close to each other. The aliens don't like it when you go to church. The aliens don't like it when you speak against the scientists because they're giving you the information. Yeah, somebody, there was somebody who was on NPR once saying that we're missing out on our alien invasion opportunity, and we're wasting away on COVID. I thought it was an interesting way of looking at it. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Marv in Iowa. Hey, Marv, you're on Ground Zero.
Hello, Clyde.
Hey.
I tuned in about the last 15 minutes of your first hour, but thought I'd call in. Saturday night we had an experience. My nephew and I were just finishing up harvesting a field of corn for my brother, and the sky was so beautiful, the moon wasn't showing, so the stars were all bright, and I said, take a minute and take a look up in the sky and just appreciate it. But anyway, I got out my the app on my iPhone to see kind of where a few things were. Jupiter was really bright, so I kind of knew where that was. But I pointed it over by the area of Mars, so, you know, from Iowa, that would be kind of to the southeast, east-southeast. But anyway, then I looked without the camera or without the phone, and I saw a point of light. Then all of a sudden, I saw it move. And it would move like diagonally up a little ways, and then it would stop. And then it would go like, you know, for perspective in the sky, you know, it's hard to tell at really far distances, but it would go like 2 or 3 inches, just all of a sudden take off and stop.
Wow.
And, you know, after going over. And then it would go down at an angle, and I kidded my nephew. I said, are you seeing the same thing I'm seeing? And I said, what could that be? And I said, well, it can't be a satellite, or it can't be an asteroid, or, you know, because the asteroid showers were supposed to be going the nights before that. But anyway, that's the first time I've ever seen anything like that. And then when it stopped, once in a while, it would have a green light and a red light.
Right.
And he said, well, maybe it's a drone. I said, you can tell it's such a distance. There's no way it could be something like that. It has to be out in space.
Also, the thing about drones, many people don't understand. The thing about drones is I once looked up in the sky and saw something that didn't belong there. And I realized afterwards it was a drone because I heard what sounded like bees buzzing. And if you listen carefully over the sounds of the street, you can actually hear it buzz. Those things are loud. They're loud. They sound like lawnmowers in the sky. So, you know, be aware of that. You know, it's kind of weird like that. Let's go to Miguel in Puerto Rico. Hey, Miguel, you're on Ground Zero with Ben Hansen. Go ahead. Miguel.
Hey, how you doing? Good night, everybody.
Go ahead, Miguel.
Over here in Puerto Rico is 12:52. What time is over there?
Yeah, it's 9:54. Go ahead.
9:54. Oh, wow. Yeah. When are we going to stop on just that denial? I mean, we got to pass over that. We already know that they exist. I mean, in Puerto Rico, it's normal for somebody even to talk to an alien, to watch a UFO right in front of your yard. It's normal. I mean, the visions that I had was exactly what you just said, Clive. Exactly. We're going to have wars. We're going to have civil wars. We're going to have catastrophe. So they're just working side by side, the Air Force and UFOs, just to coordinate to save as many humans as they can. They're scientists. They're not evil. They're just scientists. I mean, they're already billions and billions and billions of years up front of us. I mean, our evil mind thinks so bad of thinking that they're bad. I mean, that's common sense. I mean, if dinosaurs existed, what else could it be? Infinite.
That's right. It's infinite.
It's normal.
You're right. It's infinite. And you're right about Puerto Rico. There's a lot of things that happen there that don't normally happen. I've seen video footage out of it that really, you know, set your hair on the back of your neck up, and very. It's amazing what happens there in Puerto Rico. Trust me. I used to have a communication with a television news anchor there. She wanted to remain anonymous, and she told me all the things that went down in Puerto Rico. UFO sighting after UFO sighting. Gargoyle sightings where they see these winged creatures flying over. It was just, Puerto Rico is like it's a treasure trove of everything paranormal. I don't know, but you know, they gave us the chupacabra. What else can they give us? So anyway, so Ben, you're submitting a lot of research on all this. What do you think is going to come of it? What do you think I guess you say the answer to all this is going to be?
Well, you know, I'm optimistic. I do. We talked about it a lot. You know, the movement we're seeing in Congress. We've seen this before. You know, in the 60s and such. And so we'll just kind of wait and see where that goes. But it may not be up to us. You know, whoever they are, if they wanted to push the time frame forward, they could do it at any moment.
Right.
So it may not be up to us, and I just hope that we are ready. And like last caller said,
right.
I think we think in polarity that it's either good or bad, and it may be all the above. There might be multiple agendas here.
It's terrifying.
So we have to keep that in mind.
It is terrifying when the reality goes away. Let's go to Scott in Kentucky. Hey, Scott, you're on with Ben Hansen. Go ahead.
Hi there. I was wondering about pre-1950s space alien movies and post-1950s. No one ever probably even thought of this stuff, until Hollywood started putting it out there.
True.
And
not true.
I think we're alone myself.
Well, but you're saying something that isn't true. Before there were plenty of UFO sightings prior to any science fiction movies that came out in the 50s.
Oh, I wonder what the statistics on that would be. But I think we're alone myself. And I think that if they do, we're basically alone, but that it's possible there's something out there that psychically tries to connect with humans that would be so far away that would be the only way that they would ever appear, because it would be too good for us to see them. They don't want us to, will never let us see them.
Well, that's what a lot of people believe about how, we should, we look at machines and they're indistinguishable from magic. Maybe we should look at aliens as being indistinguishable from gods. I don't know. Ben, thank you so much for being on the program. A lot of people want to do research. Where do they go to find you?
BenHansen.com, and I'm on all social medias, and I'll be putting out more info.
I'm so glad you came on the program tonight. People really needed to hear this from you because you're the guy behind the investigations, and we're very happy for all your hard work.
I appreciate it.
You bet. Take care. Have a great night. Great night. And that's Ground Zero for tonight. Remember, keep your mind where they can't get at it. You keep it at Ground Zero. We'll see you soon. Don't go away.